No sound. No sound. They can't hear me. They're muted. No sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So anyways, in the middle of page 125, we continued together. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. We turn now to page 142 as we prepare to welcome in the angels of Shabbat, singing together the words of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi melech malachei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. We transition now into our Mariv service with the words of the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala u'v'zman kariv v'yimeru amen. Yesh me Rabba mevorach le'olam lamei almaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran bi'alma v'imeru Amen. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. Page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha avta, Amcha avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbeinu, uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem hayenu, ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla, v'avatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. We continue together in the English on page 154. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your heart, so that when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus shall you remember to observe all my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. As we turn now in our prayer books to page 158 for our prayer of Geulah, our prayer of redemption, and our prayer of Chairut, our prayer of freedom, it's important to note what today is, because yesterday, became a new national holiday in commemoration of Juneteenth, the anniversary of slavery finally ending in this country. We mark this day as a nation just as we mark Passover as the Jewish people, as we sing the Michamocha each Shabbat, each day we remember this moment for our people of leaving slavery in Egypt. We remember the end of slavery in this country. And both of these, Passover, Juneteenth, coupled with the Michamocha, are a constant reminder to all of us, those who have experienced, or our ancestors have experienced slavery, that we know that we must work for the day when all are truly free, because no one is really free until all are free. Page 158. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, nora tehilot osei fele. Malachutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze elianu ve'amru, ze elianu ve'amru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'amar kifada Adonai et Yaakov, u'ga'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Page 161, we read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. We turn now to page 162 as we sing together these words that remind us that as we celebrate Shabbat, it will keep us and renew our souls. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz, vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat, lidorotam berit olam. We turn now to page 164, and we rise for the tefillah. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Agadol, Agibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'kornei HaKol, V'zocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevei Geula livnei v'neihem, Le'man Shemo b'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav le'Oshia, Morid Atal, Mechalkel Chayim bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh. Say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. This week in our Torah portion, we come to Parshat Chukat, which is a parsha filled with laws of different sacrifice and how the priests can perform expiation and atonement for individuals in the community and really for the whole community, not necessarily Yom Kippur, but in individual cases when a sin happens. And right in the middle of our parsha, we have this story that is told of the people kvetching. People kvetching, which those of you who went through the book of Numbers with me in Torah study will be able to know that, or will tell you that the book of Numbers is one kvetch after the next. It's, we don't have enough food, we don't have enough water, it's too hot, it's too, well, not too cold in the desert, but one kvetch after the next. And Moses is getting sick of it, and so is Aaron. And the kvetch that happens in Parshat Chukat is about water. This is our second instance where water is going to come from the rock. Our first instance, you may remember, happens in the book of Exodus, where Moses is told, strike the rock, and water comes forth. But here, in the book of Numbers, he's told to speak to the rock. And Moses, in his frustration, says, and I'm paraphrasing the Torah, enough already, and he hits the rock with his staff, and water comes forth for the people to drink. But because he and Aaron disobeyed God's command, they didn't speak to the rock, they struck the rock, they were to be punished. And the punishment, we find out, is that neither of them will be able to make it into the land of Israel. Now, we can have a conversation at a later time of whether or not the punishment here fit the crime, but what I want to point out is what actually happens immediately after this narrative in our Torah. Moses' death won't happen for another book and a half until the end of the book of Deuteronomy. We read about that in Parshat V'zot HaBracha on Simchat Torah in the fall. But this week we do read of the death of Aaron. And when Aaron dies, the Torah tells us, Kol B'nai Yisrael, all of the children of Israel mourned him for 30 days. Kol B'nai Yisrael. Whereas when Moses will die at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, the Torah is going to tell us that Beit Yisrael mourned him for 30 days. The difference is, Kol, all of the children of Israel, mourned for Aaron, but just the house of Israel mourned for Moses. So the rabbis ask, why this extra word? Why kol? Why all? Why was everyone in mourning for Aaron? Why does the Torah find the need to point that out? It's because they liked Aaron. Aaron was a nice guy. Aaron wanted to make people happy. Aaron, you'll remember, was the one that built the golden calf. The people were kvetching. Where's Moses? He's up on the mountain for too long. He must have died up there. Make us a god. And Aaron said, sure. Aaron was the high priest. Aaron was the one who made their sacrifices, who made atonement for them, who made the people happy. As opposed to his brother Moses, who was the lawgiver, who told them no, who told them do this and don't do that, even if the do this and don't do that were what was really best for them. So in the moment of their passings, the rabbis teach us that that extra word kol is to show us that in that moment, Aaron was so beloved that all the children of Israel mourned for him. But how do we remember them now? It's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses is the hero in our literature. Moses is the one whose legacy lasts. So what we're taught here is even though in that moment it was good to be liked, it was good to make people happy, it was good to make them feel important in the moment, it wasn't always what was best. Moses, even though he had the harder job, is the one whose legacy was secure because he was willing to put limits, to say no, to do what was best for the other people. With our hearts opened by words of Torah, we take a moment as we think of those members in our community who are in need of prayers of healing, our friends, our family members, those in our congregation, and in our immediate and broader circles, as well as all of those who are currently battling COVID-19 and those who are victims of violence around the world. We ask for God's healing presence to be with them, to bring them healing of body, of spirit, and of soul. We also ask God to be with those who care for the sick each day. May they be blessed with compassion, patience, love, and support. We think of all of them. If you are remembering someone or thinking of someone on this Shabbat, I invite you to say their name out loud. Those of you in the sanctuary, as my eyes meet yours, those of you joining us virtually, to say their name out loud or type it in the chat on Facebook or in Zoom at this time. We think of all of them as we ask for God's healing presence to be with them, as we sing together this blessing on page 371. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We turn now to page 586. We rise and face east for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet girula liotzer breshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al, u'shchina tuzo b'govhei meromim, hu Eloheinu enod, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, U'shemo echad. Please be seated. The light of life is like a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades. Its substance is consumed and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory, slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of life and light. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days since their funeral, of Sheila Barbara Bobby Berman and Myrna Hammerling. And we mark the Yartzites, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Sal Kaplan, Ruth Roth, Shirley Post, Olga Waldner, Wallorek Gunner, Marianne Kingston, Beatrice Goldberg, Jack Leonard Toney, Max Serlin, Karen Sugarman, and Murray Dance. If you are remembering someone on this Shabbat and you are in the sanctuary, I invite you to say their name out loud as my eyes meet yours. If you are joining us virtually, I invite you to either speak their name out loud or add it to the chat at this time. Zikronam livracha. May all of their memories be a blessing. And along with their memories, we also remember the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them, the thousands and thousands who have died as a result of the pandemic, and the victims of violence around the world. As we remember all of them, we link their memories to the Shmei Rabbah, the great, holy, and awesome name of God that we praise now, rising and turning to page 598 to speak the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye echon v'yom echon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam l'amei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, alinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn. Comfort all the bereaved here and everywhere with the blessing of peace. Together we all say, Amen. Our closing song tonight can be found on page 625. Please join me in singing Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, li'ed nasa v'chefso kol, azai melech shemo nikra v'yah, Chare kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora vehu aya vehu ove vehu yeh betifara vehu echad v'ein sheni lehamshilo leachbira beli reshit beli tachlit velo haos Ve'hamisra ve'hu eli ve'chai goali ve'tur chevli b'yetzara ve'hu nisi umanosli menat kosi be'yom ekra b'yado avkid ruchi b'yeti shan ve'ayira ve'im ruchi Kiviati Adonai li velo yira. Please be seated. Shabbos, everyone. It was wonderful being with all of you this evening as we welcomed in Shabbat. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude with Kiddush and Motzi and a closing benediction. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat Storytime will be on Facebook as well as our website at 9:15, and then I invite you to join me at 7:30 tomorrow evening as we say farewell to Shabbat with Havdalah, also on Facebook and our website. On Tuesday, our knitting and crochet group will meet via Zoom, and a little bit of mic music will return at 7 p.m. on Facebook. And then I'm going to urge you all to have some extra afternoon coffee on Tuesday and stay up to join with members of the Reform movement from around the country for a discussion on Israeli political change, an insider's guide to what it means, which will be led by Rabbi Josh Weinberg, who is Vice President of Israel and Reform Zionism for the Union for Reform Judaism, as well as the Executive Director of ARTSA, the American Reform Zionist Association. Yes. Rabbi Weinberg is also my former camp counselor and a phenomenal teacher. Why do I say have some extra coffee? Because the discussion is going to start at 10 p.m., 7 Pacific. It's being hosted by a congregation on the West Coast, but they have invited all of us to join in for this important conversation, especially coming out of elections and finally, after 2 years, a new government being formed in Israel. Both Torah Study and Prime Timers will be off this week, but will return the following week. And next week, Mike will be back for Kabbalat Shabbat services right here in the sanctuary. Next Saturday evening at 7 p.m., join together for movie night at CDT and come watch the movie Knives Out. It's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it before, if you've seen it, you know it's funny, it's great. You should come watch it again, even if you've seen it before. RSVP to social@dortamid.com after Shabbos is over to let them know you're coming. And you probably all saw my email and Leslie's email earlier this week. Please do fill out your survey if you haven't yet done so. That is what's coming up over the next week. We've got more coming up in July and August over the coming months of the summer and then into fall now that we are back in the building. So we hope to see all of you, those of you who are here, to come back, and those of you who are joining us from home to come soon. We hope to see all of you in person in the near future. But we will conclude our service this evening by turning to page 122 as we rise for Kiddush. Vayir vayvoker yom hashishi, vayechulu hashamayim ve'haaretz, v'chol tzevam, vaychalukim bayom hashvi, melachto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi, mikol melachto asher asa, vayivarach Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto, kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot, sabri chavirai. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'charta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'yahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. And we uncover our challah as we sing Hamotzi lachem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together. As our joyful prayer is said, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. We ask for God's blessing. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'et kol v'nei adam b'shalom. May God give strength to our people, and may God bless all of us, all of Israel and all of creation with the blessing of peace. Together, wherever we are, we say, Amen, Shabbat Shalom.